Good morning, and it is cold outside. It is no worse than yesterday, -1, but it feels that much colder, probably because the breeze is a little stiffer, and it's known as the wind factor. I think that's what it's known as anyway. Good morning. Welcome to Mirador Television out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewis. And it is a cool one. And as you can see, I kept my coat on. So now I shall be very daring, very brave, and I shall take it off. Oh ho! Oh ho 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 ho! Oh, what a hero! I would suggest that you actually keep your warm clothes on for as long as you can. It is cool out there. Cool, cool, cool. All right. What shall we do? I think perhaps since we just said that it's cool, what we should do is give you the give you the weather forecast, shouldn't we? And let's see is I think that this is it. Well, that's as much as you're going to get. Oh. Well, he may laugh. That wasn't the right one at all. Well, it was actually strange enough because it seems a repeat of last Wednesday, with the exception of the temperatures. The temperature being the high of 8 and a low of -1. And right now, well, they're not telling us what the temperature is. They're only going to show us the fact that it's cloudy. You never get these things straight. Right, okay. Let's turn to the papers, the serious business of the day, if you can take anything seriously nowadays. But however, this first one, covered by the Daily Mail, is serious enough because this couple, they didn't go on the lam so much as they went walkabout in this weather with a baby, and the baby is missing, even though the couple have been arrested. She is Constant Martin, and he is Mark Gordon, and they disappeared 7 weeks ago with their newborn baby, and they have now been nobody can find the baby, even though they've been arrested, and they've been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence, verging on manslaughter. And nobody knows where the child is. The couple are being urged to tell investigators where the baby is, but also quotes a spokesperson for Sussex Police saying it is possible the baby has come to harm. So not a very happy ending to that story. And I mean, one suspects that probably they just didn't know what to do. Why they disappeared in the first place for having a baby, one doesn't know. Did they not want the child? But there have been some CCTV pictures of them pushing a pram and looking like normal parents. So it is a mystery. It's an absolute mystery as to why they went on the lam and what they've done with the child, why they won't say. I mean, I would have thought the police have every right to be suspicious that the child has, come to harm. Let's not talk the ultimate at the moment. But they are somewhere in our area, in Sussex. So if you've seen or heard or know anything about this matter, do contact the police, because the child's life still may be savable, if that's the right word. The Metro carries on with this same thing, is killed by their neglect. The search for the newborn is going on as police quiz the couple over manslaughter. The pair are currently refusing to talk to the police or even reveal the baby's sex, according to the Metro. The paper says the child is currently being searched for in freezing temperatures and across an area of 19 square miles. Okay, now, no, not him. He's in the headlines again this morning, but so is he. First of all, is that the eye goes with Sunak gambles his political career on defying Brexit deal critics. Sunak hailed a breakthrough on the Northern Ireland Protocol, which has been a sticking point. We fixed it, he says. And indeed, those people that I've spoken to in and I spent 15 years in Ulster, so I do have a few contacts. I've spoken to a couple of people, and they're taking the same approach, I think, as a people, as the Democratic Unionist Party. And that is, we're not going to be against it until we can see why. Give us a chance to analyse what's in it. The big fear amongst those people who are worried about the relationship with the European Union, and that the EU is using every subterfuge to gain more control over the British way of life or maintain some of the things that it already had, saying, hang on, let's look at the detail. What has he given away to get concessions out of the EU? So, as they say, he gambles on his political career of defying Brexit, on defying a Brexit deal. The backbenchers, who have caused so much trouble in this parliament, are at it again. They are not prepared to accept some of the things that the government does. But how powerful are they this time? Sometimes they can marshal up over 100 backbenchers. That's when the government is in trouble. Insiders say they only have about a dozen or 20 who are supportive of any action against Sunak. Perhaps it is so close to the election or an election that that they're going to be very mild in the way that they actually attack him. It's nothing like losing your leader just before an election, and there are too many people who worry about their jobs as MPs to some of them to get really feisty. Okay. The Times, they continue to go with with the Brexit situation. They say the deal is not negotiable, or at least Sunak tells the DUP the deal is not negotiable. So he's put up a brick wall. It's either him or them. And to be quite honest with you, when it comes to politics, don't ever underestimate the Irish, or the Northern Irish, the Ulster people. They're a dab hand at it. They've been at it for God knows how many years. They understand how to manage it. And I'm not at all sure that Sunak understands that. He tells the DUP, I think, thinking that they are a minority party, that they don't really count too much, that in fact they lost control of the House, the Assembly at Stormont, and therefore they are going to be rolled over. But he has to be very careful. He's told his MPs he's prepared to push ahead with the deal, with or without the support of the DUP. The party has for months refused to form a power-sharing government at Stormont because of issues with the existing arrangement. But the paper says Sunak has told his backbenchers his focus is on what's best for the people of Northern Ireland. Well, a lot of support for the DUP. And when you've lived in Northern Ireland, you understand that by being English or British, you're not actually mostly flavor of the month. The Ulster people are very suspicious of all of us over here and don't think that we think in terms of what's best for them. So I think that, yes, I think that Rishi is playing with fire, and he better be sure of his ground. Better be very sure of his ground. Rishi's Brexit boost, says the Express, for the UK. And the Express, which is as I often tell you, is a government-supporting newspaper in the main, describes the deal as Rishi's Brexit boost for the UK. The paper quotes business leaders who have said the positive impact that the deal will have in Britain should not be underestimated. So, disagreement all the way around, right? Now, the Daily Telegraph, it takes a look at a totally different, right? Is Matt Hancock comes back into the highlights, the headlines. Is Hancock rejected Whitty's advice on care home tests? So Hancock, who is still sitting as an MP, although he says he'll step down at the end of this Parliament. And one paper somewhere or other has unearthed the fact that he's formed his own television company. Now, welcome to the fold, Matt. Find out how tough it is to run your own television. Believe me, it's early mornings, late nights, baggy eyes, not really getting the support that you think that you should get, taking in the criticism and very, very little praise. Believe me. Yeah, you want a debriefing? I'll give it to you. But anyway, the former health secretary rejected advice from medical experts that everyone going into care homes in England during the pandemic should be tested for COVID. The Telegraph reports, it says that in April 2020, Hancock told advisors via WhatsApp that Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty had recommended there be testing of all those going into care homes. But the tests for people entering from the community were not introduced until the 14th of August. In other words, there's a delay, but there's a lot of delay. can't say that I can get excited terribly about that story. It's more interesting to see what he's doing to try and become a star. The Guardian, the NHS is have we got an NHS? I don't think so. We downloaded one, but I don't know that we've put it into the system. Oh well, here we go. This is the NHS is a £14 billion recovery plan already failing to meet targets, MPs have warned. Now, what the NHS has a backlog caused by the pandemic that is already failing to meet its targets. The paper says a report by the Commons Public Accounts Committee has found that a record 7 million people are now on the waiting lists and concluded that a 3-year recovery program for elective and cancer care was based on unrealistic assumptions. I never had much time for the NHS, I have to confess. Now we're looking at some doctors there. I have plenty of time for most of the doctors. There are a few militants at the moment talking strikes and so on and so forth. Believe me, I think they'll soon be rooted out by their fellows. But the NHS as a bureaucratic organisation is different. And I'm not a bit surprised that it can't meet its targets. But nobody will reform it. No politician will talk reform. The first politician to talk reform and to institute some reform, I think, will be in power for as long as he wants to be. But will they do it? No. They get all tied up in minutiae. In the Financial Times, says the Jaguar owner Tata demands £500 million of aid to build a battery plant in Britain. In other words, give us this aid, 500 million, or we'll leave. And that's the sort of thing that we can well do without. Yes, Tata Motors, the multinational company that owns Jaguar Land Rover, is demanding more than £500 million in aid from the UK government to build a new battery factory in Britain. The paper says the firm is trying to decide whether to build the facility in Spain or southwest England, and that its decision could be pivotal for the future of the UK car industry. Well, I suppose there's a lot riding on it. We have to pay attention to these things. We can take them as threats, but now the Mirror is it has ceased to be a newspaper. Really, it goes off piste. What it does is it takes a different tack. It tries to find individuals who have suffered medically, physically, from some of the mistakes that the government has made, and then highlight some failing in the system by telling the story of the object of the story. Is the man who had his limbs amputated? It says arms of love. The story of a single dad who lost all his limbs in an accident 7 years ago, but he's now able to hug his twin daughters again thanks to a double hand transplant. They are arms of love. I'm sure they are. I think it's a wonderful story. The Daily Star, they've taken David Jason as market traders forced to quadruple veg prices. I mean, that's serious enough, is it not? When the prices of vegetables are going up, it says, "Oi mush, want to buy a turnip?" And with David Jason looking into a hamper full of fresh vegetables. And the Star reports that market traders have been forced to quadruple the price of vegetables because they are being charged as much as £2 for a single lettuce. and £24 for a crate of tomatoes. So selling out to you and I is almost difficult. Who the hell's going to pay? Let's say a pound of tomatoes. So it's 3 tomatoes. Is it £6 a pound? Whoa! And that's only a guess. Good morning, whoever is behind me.
Morning, Pete.
How are you this morning?
Yeah, can't believe it's Wednesday again. It comes around quick.
It does. But you won't be very happy with the fact that the lettuce is going to cost you a couple of quid at the market.
Really?
Yeah, you better stop eating lettuce.
Everything's gone up, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Quadrupled, they say. So that's the that's the national headlines. Now let's see whether we can find, apart from the obvious story that's going to be local. Here we go. Sussex Live. Breaking news. Residents are evacuated from where and to where? Right. East Grinstead residents are evacuated from their homes in the early hours. And why are they? Rescued from their street. Evacuated from their street. Following a mains gas leak. So no explosion took place, but the big fear is that it could. And so residents have been hustled out of their homes and to make sure that they don't get blown up. Now, as I suspected, a major story is the missing baby out of the Brighton couple who appear to have not only abandoned their child, but they won't tell anybody where the child is. I mean, they're behaving in an extraordinarily strange way. Difficult to say why. But police have said the risk to the missing baby they are searching for is extremely high. The baby's parents, aristocrat Constance Martin, and her partner, Mark Gordon, were arrested last night in Brighton and have now been further arrested on suspicion of gross negligence and manslaughter. Until their arrest, the couple had been missing and travelled around the UK by taxi after their car was found on fire on January the 5th. Well, that's some time ago, isn't it? An extensive search is now underway to find their baby. The newborn has not had any medical attention since its birth in early January. Well, there you are. That's we've got a nice clutch of school children outside. I don't know whether they're local or whether they're visitors from somewhere, but they're all in animated conversation and having a wonderful time. It's good to see them talking. Not one of them has got a phone to his ear. Most encouraging. They are all well dressed up because it's cold out there. So don't pretend to yourself that it's not. It's 8:57, by the way, on the 1st of March, 2023, and those are the main stories. Anything else that we should be aware of? Essential resurfacing works set to close the busy A road with disruption likely. Where's that? Just so that you can avoid it if you're driving around. Close to 8264 in East Grinstead. Okay. East Grinstead, you be careful if you're driving up that way. Let's see, 5 arrested after the stabbing released on bail. Some murder investigation continues. That's the stabbing in Brighton. And 5 people were arrested, but they're now out on bail. I often wonder about this business of bail. It was in Crawley, actually, not Brighton as such. But a murder investigation is continuing because the stabbing of a young boy is taking place. And that's more or less everything that we have going on here in the southeast that would be of interest for those people who aren't necessarily of or for this parish. We try to be as international as we possibly can. Sometimes these crimes are reflective of the sort of life that we're leading and help people overseas to understand what we're about in Britain. You know, it's easy to wave your hands and say, oh yeah, Americans. Oh yeah, Irish. Oh yeah, French. And really we don't have a clue what we're talking about because people's attitudes, priorities, environmental circumstances are all different. And to try and understand what's important to them, it's as important that we let them know what is important to us. And that's our raison d'etre, not to let you know that somebody has lost a cat. I mean, we're very sympathetic to people who lose their animals because we know how close they are. But Mick Symes, Lewis Present, and some of the other social media are perfectly happy in highlighting that sort of thing and make sure that you've got somewhere to go if you've got that sort of problem. Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock, and it is time for us to leave. And what we've got to we take a half-hour break now before we come back with a rather softer and more feature-like program for the rest of the morning. Just so that you can be reminded that the newspaper headline is "Fears for a Missing Baby," and Sunak defies critics over his Northern Ireland Protocol deal with the EU. We'll see. Both have another chapter to add to their story, and we'll keep an eye on that as we go along. For the moment, let's say toodle toodle pip, and we'll be back in half an hour.